Call to order. Okay, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Rita, would you like to start with the roll call?
Yep. Okay. Commissioner Varnes,
Present.
Commissioner Mir,
Present.
Commissioner Nishioka,
Present.
Commissioner Banak,
Present.
Commissioner Gunno,
Here.
and Commissioner Heilman. He is absent. Okay.
Hi. Say hi. Oh my. What was that little book? There's say hi. Say hi.
Okay, Commissioner Gano, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Okay.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
I'll move. This is Jody or Commissioner Nishioka.
Second,
I second it.
any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the agenda's passed. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from our last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Commissioner Gano, sorry.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Banak. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have public comment. Mike, is there anyone on for public comment?
We do not have anybody on Zoom for virtual public comment. We have Council Member Howe here in person if she would like to provide comment.
I was just going to thank you for your service. Thank you for paying attention to an important area for the city, and I appreciate you on a beautiful day when you could be out doing something else. So just thank you.
Could you, I'm sorry, it's a little difficult to hear her. Sorry.
Councilmember Howe was, unfortunately, we do not have a microphone set up for public comment this evening, but Councilmember Howe was just thanking the commission for their work and their dedication to this process. And that is all for public comment.
Okay, great. On to new business. So we're on to the 2023-2024 grant review, and hopefully you all received the draft recommendation sheet that includes the initial ask and the revised and the extra. Does everyone have that in front of them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to, I guess, Mike or Rita to lead us through this discussion.
Yes, thank you. So on the screen, we should all be looking at our revised 2023-2024 Human Services Grant Recommendation Spreadsheet. This was in the packet that went out this evening, and it was sent in Excel format to the Commission on Friday. And just to recall kind of the process to date, the commissioners have each broken into subgroups. We have 5 groups here: basic needs, mental wellness, cultural inclusion, seniors, and domestic violence. And the commissioners broke into groups to review the applications in each area. After reviewing them individually, they came to the commission and presented their recommendations. We have an assumed budget, assuming that our human services grant budget is the same as it was in the current biennium. Our budget would be $440,345. So the discussion at our meeting 2 weeks ago was to shift some of the grants that were recommended by the subgroups into the extra ask column so that we could reach the assumed budget of $440,345. So the commission went back to their subgroups over the last couple weeks and worked to shift some from the main budget ask into the extra ask column. And so that's what this spreadsheet is showing here. So you see we had about 1.2 million in requests from all the grants that came in. The commission, after initially recommending and then going back and revising the recommendation, landed on approximately 442,000 in recommendations for the base budget. And then as an additional ask, shifted money into this column in the amount of about 241,000 for a total recommendation at this point of 682,736. And you can see of this total recommendation, the breakdown by priority area. So 43% of the recommendation is in basic needs, 27% in mental wellness, and so on. And so at the top here, we have kind of a counter that shows the amount over or under our current biennial budget of 440,345. And at the moment, with the commission going back into their subgroups and revising the recommendations, we've landed on just 1,836 over this assumed budget, with the additional recommendation, as mentioned, 240,555, with the total recommendation being 682,736. So I think what we talked about doing at this meeting was shifting or modifying the recommendation so that this number matches the current biennial budget. So this would show as 0. And then the additional recommendation may increase if the commission decides to shift this 1,800 into the additional recommendation column. I hope that makes sense, Rita. Did I miss anything?
No, just to give some context to the new commissioners, that number 1,836 is super low. Like I know in years past, we've had much higher numbers where the commissioners have had to grapple and figure out how to get to that number. So it's super doable. Yes.
And so with that, I think we can turn it over to Vice Chair Varnes to kind of lead the commission in a discussion of how we want to adjust the recommendation to kind of hit that number that we're trying to hit there, the 440,345.
Thank you. So you heard it's super doable. I guess I'll open it to discussion about if anyone has any immediate ideas how we might address that approximately $1,800.
Sure. Hi, Commissioner Benak. Looking at this, my thought is maybe just take 900 from basic needs, 450 from mental wellness, and then 450 from cultural inclusion. And then I think, like I said, as I'm sure we can kind of nudge the specific numbers either way, but it would be very minor to especially the top 3 areas that we're looking to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am,
Yes,
Commissioner Gano,
go ahead.
we worked on the basic needs group together. And I think, and it's just my opinion, there's 2 that we could probably take $500 away from, which would give us $1,000 if we can shift the $500 to the extra ask like we had discussed before.
Mhm.
And that would be the Hope Link Housing
Mhm.
and the Bridge Disability Ministries,
Mhm.
the medical equipment.
I also, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I also remembered us talking about the Poison Center and the 2,500 and whether we thought that was entirely necessary, given that they get, funding sources from the county and so on. So that was one I know that we had kind of talked about. If we had to shift to the ask, that would be one that we would have chosen.
Yes,
What are your
ma'am, I
thoughts on
recall
that?
that as well.
Other commissioners, other ideas too?
Am I on mute? I can't see for some reason.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Well, if you guys in basic needs are willing to go down 500 and in each of those, I'm agreeable to that. I think the Poison Center, they asked for so little, right? Their full ask is 3,000. So my guess is that because the ask is so low, that if we went down on that one, it's not gonna make a big difference for them. They weren't asking for much to begin with. Their budget is much larger. It's not like they have a really small budget. So I would even consider, if you guys were thinking that you're within your subcommittee to reduce it, that we could, reduce that one. So anyway, that's.
Yeah, just to comment on that,
Yeah.
one of our thoughts was to actually reduce it to 0.
Yeah. Then that would make it up easily.
Mhm.
So.
I know in mental health, the Yes Cross Path, they're asking for 92,518. I don't think it would have a big impact if it was 92,000 straight.
This is Commissioner Gano. I just want to make sure that anything that we try to reduce to match our previous year's budget, that we include that dollar amount in the extra ask. Because after reviewing all these grants, there's a lot of need out there. There's a lot of service providers out there that can do the work for us. And any additional funding that we can get, let's put it in the extra ask if we're cutting.
I think that was the idea, correct?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, Commissioner Gano. I think that that if we all read all of these, we read all the proposals, we made our initial, analysis, we talked about it in committee, then we talked about it as a big group. And so I think our recommendations for the amount requested, the amount of extra ask, and now we're moving like another 1,800. I would like to also, I know that's kind of what we're already thinking, but just for the record, and since we have other public folks on the call who might not have been who might not have heard our discussion the last few meetings, we have put a lot of thought into this. All of the ones that we have recommended, and we've not recommended some of them, many of them as well. So we've been discriminating. And so I do think that at that $1,800, we should definitely put in the extra ask. And I would really hope that the council will seriously consider the full extra ask, because there's a huge amount of need given where we are right now in this moment for all of these services.
Any other commissioners? It's hard to see who might want to speak.
Can I ask where the cuts that we've recommended so far, so we can kind of do the math?
So one proposal is to cut the funding for the Poison Center down to 0. That would be $2,500 and take care of the whole thing. Commissioner Benak recommended that we take, I'm sorry, Commissioner Benak, can you restate your idea?
I suggested, the single biggest one is the Yes Cross Path, and they do a very valuable service. But if we were just to fund them at 92,000 instead of 92,518, I don't think it would have a major impact.
So you mentioned taking a little from each of the groups, is that right?
Well, for the mental health, basically we've only fully funded to the Yes Cross Path and the East Side Services. So so if we just took the 500 from the Yes Cross Path, put it into the extra ask, I think we would still be getting maximum value from the Yes and Cross Path.
Commissioner Bernat, didn't you also suggest taking from the other two areas? Was that your original proposal?
The other thought was that, we basically look at, the single largest one is the, basic needs, maybe pull half of it from, the 900 plus change from there, pull 450 to 500 from mental wellness, and then, 450 from, cultural inclusion. The other two seniors and domestic violence are much smaller amounts, so it would have more of an impact on them.
Other discussion?
I'd make a proposal to, as I can see, Mike already did, take the 500 from CrossPath. And then take, can you scroll up to the basic needs so I could see it? Maybe, so how much do we have on the Poison Center was 2,500, maybe take that down to 1,500, so that's 1,000. I don't know if that's too low of a grant amount, that if it's worth funding. I mean, in terms of all the administrative costs for just a $1,500 grant, we could just not fund them. I'm okay with not
Yes.
funding them in total, and then we don't have to cut from the yes. But if we wanted to take a little from a few to spread it out, I'd say that would be 1,500. So now we just need 300, and I take it off of the Hope Link housing. No, there was two others that basic needs suggested, right? Hope Link housing and one more,
Can I,
or the
Can I
bridge.
ask a question? This would be for staff. Rita, on the poison control, is that one that the dollar amount tends to be so low that we kind of pay anyway?
So I think traditionally the commission haven't had a discussion as to whether you should have a minimum funding amount. So,
Yeah, maybe
so as a
we didn't
commission,
make a
like,
decision on that though, right?
yeah, so
I know there's some with housing that we go ahead and pay, even though they may not meet the goal for that quarter or whatever.
sure, yeah. So for housing within basic needs, we're not necessarily looking at service units or residents served because that's part of our regional responsibility. Washington Poison Center, yes, provides direct services to Sammamish residents as well as the whole of King County. So I don't know if that answers your
And
question.
And
On the-
they had several funding sources, correct? If I
So
recall.
Washington Poison Control has a very vast, big repertoire of funding sources. Yeah, it's a very, they have a lot of funding from various sources. Yeah.
I would recommend, like Jody was talking about,
Yeah.
excuse me, to just take the 2,500 from there and put it in the extra ask.
Yeah.
Then we'll
Poison
be
Control is
under,
not going to go out of business if we don't give them the extra 2,500.
then if we do that, then we can put the
That would be
500 back
my
from the,
recommendation.
then we can put the 500 back, yeah, in CrossPath.
Yeah, I'd leave cross-path money alone.
Okay. I'm good with that. What do other commissioners think of that?
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Also, I was just gonna say, I know we didn't talk about it as a commission, but in basic needs, we kind of tried to keep our floor at 2,000. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Vice Chair Vanis, we're now actually $664 under budget.
okay, does anyone have a proposal that they were short on that that is nice and
I don't know if we can get to the exact dollar.
what about the Youth Eastside Services Behavioral Health for Youth and Children? That's an odd number.
Yeah,
Do it.
let's put it there.
Are we talking
I
about
think I heard
under
Commissioner
mental
Bottenberg. Did
wellness,
you agree with
youth,
that?
east side services?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good
I'm-
with that too.
I'm in favor of that as well.
Yeah.
Anything in the mental health arena, if we can get some funding in there, it would help.
There we go.
Yes.
Yep.
Yay.
Okay, sorry. I think my internet is a little janky. Yes, does that? Okay. Okay, so we're at 0. Great job, everybody.
Yay.
Hey.
Nice job.
So
You
do
know,
we, go ahead.
I just want to thank everybody. All the groups put a lot of work in it
Mhm.
just to get to this point. I know it went quickly tonight, but we know how much
Mhm.
we were pulling teeth to get here. So I just want to thank everybody.
Agree. Thank you very much for that. Okay, do we have to formally approve it or?
Vice Chair Verness, I think at this point, we don't need to formally
Okay.
approve it. We can talk about it a little bit more at our September meeting. So I think at this point, if we want, as we talked about earlier, we could talk about the kind of the handoff piece of this and how the commission prefers to present it to the city council.
Okay, go ahead with that discussion.
Yeah, so in past years, I think the traditional way to hand off the grant recommendation to the city council is by having the chair and the vice chair of the commission present it. And typically Rita and I will help the chair and vice chair develop the speaking points and put together the PowerPoint just based on kind of our discussions over the past few months. One of the other ways that I think we've done it in the past is that each commissioner can present, or we can have a variety of commissioners present on their focus areas. So for example, we could have the subgroup that worked on basic needs present that piece and kind of speak to why the recommendation came out the way it did and so on. So we just kind of wanted to have that initial discussion here tonight because at our September meeting, we'll be coming to you with kind of a draft memo, a draft handoff memo, a draft handoff PowerPoint, 80 to 90% complete. So in order to kind of inform that, and so that we're hitting the mark, we just wanted to kind of open it up for the commission's discussion here tonight.
Thank you. So discussion on the presentation format. How do you feel about people from each subgroup, someone from each subgroup presenting to the council?
I think Julie, the last time around, I think we had done a presentation not only on each of the subgroup areas, but also Rita, if I remember correctly, we had taken some data from the needs assessment that was done, right? To provide some background and context. And I felt that it was helpful not only to present our proposal, but it was also a learning opportunity for council members. So from that perspective, I think it's very helpful because we have some council members with whom we haven't engaged as much. So it's really a learning opportunity, like again, taking some of the data. I don't know whether the needs assessment data is as current now, like it's old data. So if we have any updated data, we could share some of that. And then also present, our thinking behind the proposal we have made.
Commissioner Back, and I looked at the needs assessment last year, and it seemed more than a little dated compared to the current needs, especially in a post-COVID world. So I think it might be a good reference, but I'm not sure that it's necessarily reflects our current needs within Sammamish or the East Side.
Commissioner Gano, I think the last time we present, I like the idea of, we got new council members, a few of them, and I'm not sure how familiar they are with the needs assessment and the work that went into it. And I agree, it probably needs to be updated. But if staff did a short presentation on the needs assessment and then had the chair and the vice chair do the presentation, I think it would go smoother and more quickly than breaking out and having all the subgroups doing presentations.
This is Commissioner Nishioka. I think that the needs assessment, I agree with Commissioner Mir that it would be nice to have that framework, even addressing that the data is old. It's pretty basic in terms of what the needs are. I mean, we know the needs are, and and actually we could talk about in terms of this is what we see as a community as a whole. When we did a full needs assessment a few years back, COVID has only just exacerbated those same needs. I mean, I don't think what we've heard, and we can maybe talk about in the presentation, we can talk about how we've spent last year doing listening sessions and having each of, providers from each of those areas come in and share with us. So it's not like we're just saying this because that's what we think. We've heard from community that those same needs are still needed, and actually they're greater. So I think if we present it that way, it's like, okay, we have this general data that we know in Sammamish, there are basic needs, there's, mental health issues. We know that youth have had a lot of stress, and COVID actually had, and what we heard from providers is just an example, that youth mental health has actually been increased. So these are the same needs, they're just bigger now. That we could provide that kind of context, I think will be helpful for them, because I'm sure they're all care about human services, but they don't think about it like we do all the time. And we talk about it every meeting. They have to think about Parks and Rec and, emergency services and everything else. So I think it'd be good for them to see, to hear from us about our process and what we've heard from community and our needs assessment. So they have a full context of how we got to this point. Because if we don't do that, they won't have that full context. They can make assumptions like, oh, these are just, those of us here on the commission just doing what we want to do. Our pet projects, right? And that's not what it is. We've had a net needs assessment. We've had a whole year of listening sessions from community providers. And so I think that would be really helpful. So they learn, not only they know the substantive knowledge that we've learned, but that they also know our process. And then go through it. I'm fine with the vice chair and the chair making the presentation on behalf of all of us. It might be a little muddied if we all are there, if we all present, but I'm okay with that too. I'm just kind of addressing some of the questions that came up from my perspective, and then I'll stop talking. I do think it's helpful for all of us to be there in the room. So that the council is there, they know that we're invested, and that we stand behind our proposals, if we're actually there. So even if we don't all need to speak, but I'm also okay with presenting if the vice chair and the chair feels they need that support.
So I guess a question for seasoned commissioners. Does the council, and do you walk them through area by area? Because if that's the case, then I would, probably think it'd be better if one representative from the subgroups talks, because to your point, Commissioner Nishioka, the information about how COVID has affected these different areas was within all the applications, and certain commissioners read them in detail. So that would just be my reason for having, one person from each subgroup present.
I'll just jump in. This is Mike. Historically, we haven't kind of gotten to the weeds as far as individual grant applications. It's been a little bit more general. So in the past, we have talked about some of the trends that we've seen and how that's aligned with the needs assessment. But I definitely hear the various commissioners that have spoken's point about getting some updated numbers, looking at the numbers that were pulled in the needs assessment, but maybe updating them based on current data, because a lot of it was based on publicly available data through the census or another source. So we can certainly do that. And then again, I really like the idea of speaking about the commission's work in the various panels that were held both last year and then 3 years ago for the commissioners who were here back then, because there really was a lot of learning that happened there, a lot of listening. The commission, I think, spoke with practically every, major area that deals with the community, from mental wellness to teen drug abuse to police and fire, the whole gamut. And some of our biggest and most trustworthy providers came and spoke with us. So I think wrapping some of that, some of the updated needs assessment data, and then it's like I said, we don't really get into the weeds as far as individual grants. We just kind of talk about some of the summary level breakdown. It's sort of like the top of the spreadsheet that we were just looking at, like the percent that goes to each area and the total recommendation and kind of why we're recommending what we are. And then sort of handing it over, because the commission or the council's not going to have that much time in their meeting to really do the deep dive as the commission has. So we're just kind of trying to make the case here as best we can at a summary level.
Also, can I interject a little bit? Of course, I love to hear myself. Staff will also help the chair and vice chair prepare your presentation, so it'll go smoothly for you if you're concerned about it at all. And we're in the audience backing you up, so don't worry about that. We love you guys.
Thank you. Chair Bottenberg, do you have any comments?
I'm fine with either way.
Same. So I mean, I guess I feel like if it's going to be less cumbersome to have more presenters, I'm fine with that. And if they're not going to go into a level of detail where we have to speak directly to individuals, that's great.
Right.
I also think that would work out well fine too. And as the staff puts together the PowerPoint and the summary, it'd be great for each of the groups to sort of be thinking about what are in their discussions, what were sort of like highlights of what they focused on in terms of their analysis. And then either feed that to staff so they can put it in, or when staff sends us their draft, we can just be thinking that, because I think that that's really what it is. It's not like individual grants, but like what we saw was this, and what we've heard was this. So this is why we focus so much on this, in terms of that. So it's like sort of that kind of high level analysis that we can provide to the council, I think might be good context for them.
It's a good point. Thank you.
It
Okay.
also helps that Rita sat in with the subgroups, so she saw how we did the breakdown and the analysis of each one.
Okay, good. So then I guess it's off to staff to prepare the presentation.
Yep, I think we have what we need. And I was just telling Rita, we can send out last year's PowerPoint and memo as a point of reference, because that's probably where we'll start, just in an effort not to try and reinvent the wheel here, and just going to build off that. So yeah, look for an updated draft kind of a little bit before your September meeting, and we'll talk about it there and kind of make sure we're all comfortable and do the final approvals before the council meeting, which is scheduled for the study session on October 11th.
Okay, great. So I think that's the discussion for the grant application review. On to staff reports.
Vice Chair Venice, I'm going to pass because I spoke to you guys last week and I had a vacation. And so, unless you want to hear about my vacation, I don't have much to report on staff reports. So that will come to you the next time we meet in September. Thank you.
Commissioner reports.
Chair, I don't have a report, but I do have a question for staff. We did receive one written comment. Does that get included in the minutes?
Cassandra Sages.
Let me ask our city clerk's office. We filed it in our shared drive, but I'm not sure if that gets incorporated into the minutes or not. I'll speak with our city clerk's office to see what they do for council meetings.
Okay. Did all the commissioners see the written comment that came in?
That was the one that came in by email today, is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if it's there, then I don't think we have to include it since it's already there. I'm not sure. It's on file, so
It's on file, but we'll double check.
thank you.
Okay, the next meeting, no August meeting, right? We're in recess then for August. September 14th is the next meeting where we confirm the grant recommendation and discuss the handoff, go over the PowerPoint. And that's it for our meeting. Oh, Jody, you're
Motion to
on
adjourn.
mute.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
No.
No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your month off.
Good job,
Thanks,
Julie.
everyone.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Good job.
bye.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, everyone. And that was a quick, mighty meeting. Thank you. Super efficient.
Can I ask a quick question? Just a logistical question, not part of the meeting, for staff. In October, we have the council meeting on the 11th. We have a commission meeting typically on the Wednesday that follows that. Are we going to not have that one? Should I take that off the calendar?
So we're scheduled, actually, that's a great point. So we're scheduled for October the 12th. So if we're going to council on October 11th, yeah, I mean, I think we should take it off the calendar. We're not that awful. We're not going to expect you to come in 2 evenings.
All right, great. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.